Hello, my name is James Davis. I'm the founder and CEO of Upad. Thank you for using the platform for putting your rental property on the market. So in this short video, we're just going to talk through how best to put your place on the market and work through the form that you've got in front of you. It starts by logging into your account on Upad and selecting Add Property from the top of your console. From there, you put in all your property details in terms of the address, the rent that you're wanting to ask when you put it on the market, and so on. Remember, when you're choosing your deposit, if you're using one of the traditional deposit schemes, the deposit can be no more than 5 weeks of rental income. There's a new cap since the tenant fee ban came in, so be aware of that unless you're using zero deposit as an alternative deposit scheme that we cover off on other videos. You'll also be asked whether you want to have an inventory done of your property. I would stress that regardless of whether it's a furnished or unfurnished property, it is worth getting an inventory done. The reason being is twofold. The first is something like 60% of all claims for properties being returned in a different state to where it was originally let are to do with cleanliness. And the only way of proving the state the property was in when it was originally let is by having an inventory. And should there be a dispute, simply without an inventory, the arbitrator will side with your tenant. So to have any claim whatsoever, and the fact that the majority of claims are to do with cleanliness, you may well want to get an inventory done of your property. I also use the same report for the next following few years. We might add in a few points in terms of marks on the walls and so on, but we can very much use that report for the next following sort of few years. So just be aware of that. It doesn't have to be a new one every single time. Further down the form, you'll be asked whether you want to have a Rightmove featured listing. The reason we ask whether you would like that is if you are in a competitive space, and you can identify whether you're in a competitive space by doing a search for your postcode on Rightmove. If there's more than 12 properties that you're competing with, advertising it as a featured one where it's at the top of the page, so it's got far more visibility, far more eyeballs seeing it. It's something you might want to consider. And again, if you get unsure about any of these things, please do give us a call. The team are here to help you 6 days a week. Further down the form as you go along, you'll be asked for any featured points of your property, any aspects you want to highlight, and you can put up to about 10 points in there. I would really recommend that you make at least one of those points, the fact that the landlord, you are doing the viewings, or that you are managing the property. And the reason I would put that as a key point is the fact that 9 out of 10 tenants would rather let from you or I as a landlord than through an agent. So your property will be more appealing to those tenants looking on the market. So use that as an opportunity to showcase the fact you do your own viewings and indeed the other aspects of your property, something to consider. Next comes up with the description, and I really recommend that maybe what you would do is put this into Word on your computer to start with, and just get everything written down there, and then copy and paste it into your landlord console on Upad. And it's really worthwhile grabbing a cup of tea or coffee and putting some time and effort into this. Once you've written it, you can use it again and again, so it's really worth getting it right first of all. I would steer clear of all those high street estate agency terms of "we're pleased to present" and focus more on writing it like a blog, a story as if you're walking through the front door, what's inside the property, and don't forget to talk about what's happening in that local area. We've got a new organic shop that's just opening up, and I would very much mention that if it was my rental property I was bringing to the market. Keep that as a Word document, save it on your computer so you can use that again and again. At the bottom of each page, as you're going through the process, make sure you save each page so you don't lose any information that you're putting in there. If you want to come back to it later on, that's fine, but please don't forget to save it. We don't want to have those moments where you have to redo things and remember what's happening. And I think at the bottom of that page, you're asked about viewings and whether it's you or a family member doing it. If it's your partner, for example, you have the option of putting their contact details in rather than yours. And the point of this is that when tenants inquire about your rental, it will be those details that will be shared with tenants to organise that viewing. So it gives you the opportunity to put your partner's details down if they are doing the viewings on your behalf, for example. Something just worth mentioning. EPCs, it's a legal obligation to have an EPC and to give a copy at the start of your tenancy agreement. Remember, it needs to be at least a grade A to E, otherwise it invalidates your agreement, so you could upload your EPC also on the form. You also need to do a CP12, that's your gas certificate. These also need to be done annually, and you need to make sure you give a copy to your tenants at the beginning of the tenancy agreement. If you haven't got one, we can do these services for you. You could just tick the box and we'll get them done. I think for a CP12, you can have a £6,000 fine. So I really recommend making sure you are covered and you have these essential paperwork in place when you are letting your property. And then depending on your risk profile and whether you have a mortgage on your property, you might want to take out what's called rent guarantee insurance. Now, the team can tell you more about it over the phone, but essentially, if you've got a mortgage on your property and therefore you're reliant on that rental income coming in, for a small fee, you can take out insurance to protect you should your tenant stop paying you the rent. It will cover the legal fees and so on to evict them and to move on, and it may well give you that peace of mind at the end of the day. And again, it's up to you, your risk profile of whether you want to consider it all. And then there's probably the most important aspect of the whole uploading your property details bit, and that is the photographs. And the reason this is the most important bit is when tenants are looking on Rightmove or Zoopla for their next rental, something like 90% of the screen is taken up with images. So not having images, as we talk on many webinars, is an absolute no-go. Getting really good quality ones is absolutely essential because the quality of iPhones and iPad screens these days is second to none. So if you don't have a digital camera, an SLR camera, we can do photographs for you. You can just tick that box and we'll get that all sorted out for you straight away. If you do have your own, I'd recommend uploading somewhere between 6 and 12 images. Try and have as many as you can as internal shots of your property, and that main photograph that you will see when you're uploading should be an internal shot, something like the living room or the kitchen. Tenants want to visualise what it's like to live in your property. Please don't do what most high street agents do, and that's an external shot. And the reason being is you only look at the outside of your property as you're walking home at the end of the day for 5 seconds, but you spend more time inside your property watching TV or cooking. So use a photo that fits in there with what tenants are wanting, what it's like to live in your property, then stare at it and stare at it from the outside. The other thing, as well as photographs, that I would recommend is having a floor plan. The reason being about floor plans is most tenants are now doing their viewing online. The physical viewing is actually just to confirm what they've already seen and to meet you, the landlord. So the more information about your property, for them to understand how big each bedroom is, the more you're helping yourself, the more you're going to generate some really good inquiries. So you can either upload your own floor plan, or again, we can do it for you if you would like us to. But all of these things really help market your property and generate as many inquiries as you can, which is very much the order of the day. And then, depending on whether you are new to the market or you're a seasoned landlord, the legislation side of being a landlord has been changing so much, especially in the last few years in terms of changes. There are at least a couple of amendments to tenancy agreements every single year alone. So if you are a bit unsure or not following what is happening in the rental space legally, you can use our tenancy sign-up service, and we will take care of all the paperwork for you. Basically remove that hassle factor. But I think more importantly, and what I'd rather focus on, is we will ensure that you're being compliant, that your clauses in your tenancy agreement are legally binding, and so on and so forth. I'll give you a couple of other top tips while we're on this video. The first is the best time to advertise your property is to have it on the market on a Monday morning when tenants have realised over the weekend they need to move, or Friday afternoon when tenants are organising their viewings for the weekend coming. If you get stuck with anything, please don't just keep it to yourself. The team are here 6 days a week, Monday to Saturdays, if you get stuck with anything, and we can help you through the process. Everybody is ILA accredited, account managers to help you along the way, or drop us a message and we will help you if you get stuck with anything. And don't forget that we've done quite a lot of surveys that have found that Upad customers get, on average, about a third less voids, less empty periods than the UK average. We let properties, on average, a third faster than the high street, reducing those costly viewings. and we're really pleased with winning the Best Online Agent Award at the ESTAs earlier this year, and I'm really proud to share that with you. I hope what we've run through in this very short video has given you some insights on how to advertise your property, how best to complete that form and generate as many inquiries as you can. Myself and the team are here for you if there's anything else you're unsure of. Otherwise, we wish you all the very best in finding tenants for your next rental property. My name's James Davis, and thank you for watching this video.